Before we get cracking and welcome our guests, Jason Thomas from Fly Racing and James Burfield, the boss at mxvice, we'd like to thank our sponsor for this one in Fly Racing. Obviously, they're excited to celebrate their 25th anniversary in 2023, led by the revolutionary Formula S helmet featuring Rheon technology. Fly Racing continues to push the boundary of product performance and design. We would like to thank our loyal dealers and customers for 25 incredible years and look forward to the next 25 and beyond. Check out the new line at flyracing.com, at Fly Racing USA on social media, and all our athletes at worldwide motocross and off-road events in 2023. All right, firstly, welcome, JT. Thanks again for joining us. It's been a while because you've been absolutely flat out, mate. 31 rounds. You finally got through it, mate. How was it all?
Yeah, I'm good. But to be fair, it's been a whirlwind. For anybody who goes to every race all year long, regardless of what you do there, you could just be sitting in a chair, in the air conditioning all weekend. It's just a lot. The traveling and the airports and hotels and all that stuff catches up with you. So I will say it's been amazing. I wouldn't trade it for anything, but I think everybody to a man is looking forward to being home for a couple of months.
From start to finish, JT, I have no idea how you did it. I mean, I moan about going to a couple of mxgp rounds, but holy shit, you're making me look so bad.
No, don't be envious, man. It's everybody has their own cross to bear. I think I overdo it a bit. Anybody that I talk to about it is like, are you some sort of do you have something mentally wrong with your brain? But I love it. I want to be there. I want to be involved. I don't know how to write code. I can't launch a space shuttle like Elon Musk. So I got to figure out somewhere to be useful, and motorcycle racing's it, I guess.
Yeah, mate, definitely a good piece of advice that stuck with us, James, was how JT said, I'm not going to turn down an opportunity because you never know where it's going to lead. And, you don't know when they're going to come along again, mate. So that was definitely the case for you. And it's certainly bearing fruit, all the amazing things you're achieving. And I mean, being a part of the SMX was really cool. Obviously, you stepped up well. There was so much more commitments associated with that for you, mate. So how was that? Definitely ended the season with a bang. Lots of questions about it heading in. I think they answered those questions pretty well. It came out very successfully, even though there was a few things to do with bike setup and the tracks. But that's what it's all about, isn't it? Being challenged. And there was some great battles in there. The point structure played out pretty well all the way till the end. So, and it's just cool having all that money for the riders and everyone being on the same page with a lot of things too, isn't it, mate?
Yeah, it was great. I go back to last October, which is the first time I really saw the details, and we had the big press conference at the Coliseum in Los Angeles. And I heard rumblings about, this thing. You heard that this was going to happen. There were going to be extra races, but you didn't really know what it was going to be. And then when they rolled it out in totality, there were, I think, more questions than answers. There's different points format, different venues than we'd ever been to. Just everything about it. The race format was different. Escalating points, this huge payout. Would people care? Would they treat it like a real world championship? There was just so much uncertainty. And having been at all the rounds and having been really on the inside of these things, right? I'm privy to all these meetings and planning and how to tell the story and present this to not only the public, but also the hardcore fans and everybody, the industry. I give them a ton of credit. They went from simply an idea, and we have to remember this was new to them too, right? That nobody had ever done anything like this. They took a lot of risk of being willing to change formats and change everything with new concepts. And was it perfect? No, it wasn't. There were things that I think they learned that would be better for 2024 and beyond. But for a first shot at it, it was a pretty damn great thing. The riders made a ton of money. The turnout for all the races was great. And the finale at the LA Coliseum was nothing short of spectacular. It was really, really well done. There were a ton of fans, just the atmosphere, the history inside that building. They just nailed it. They knocked it out of the park. And I was just very, very proud to play a small part in it. I don't think I deserve to be there or do the things that I get to do, but I'm damn sure not going to say no, as you mentioned before. And I'm just going to try to soak up every minute until they tell me to stop coming.
Absolutely, mate. And how was it for you, James? You enjoyed it?
Yeah, awesome. I think for me, from the outside, sort of, and looking in, I think this year, with obviously we've known about the series and what's going to happen, and you're not quite sure with what's going on, and you hear about WSX and obviously MXGP, but I got to be honest here, and I definitely believe the American industry and the series and SMX just really, really elevated this year, to the point where actually it's kind of, it is, well, you can see by the amount of riders now, which have just all eyes. You know that meme where there's the guy and the girlfriend who's walking down the road and the one walks past? It's like, it reminds me of like MXGP and WSX, and like the SMX has just walked past, and everybody started looking back. And I think that's what it is for me this year. Like I genuinely believe that, yeah, it was at the top anyway, but I just feel like they're pulling away, especially with the extra money. I think for me, that is what a story to when you start to list all the payouts for the riders. I mean, freaking hell. I mean, that some of those payments for some of those riders, that's changing lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're talking about Hunter Lawrence and, him missing out on that money. Really sad end for him, but pretty amazing seeing Deegan there, mate. The celebrations were absolutely going off, and Jet finalising it. Obviously, there was a lot of pressure and criticism on him coming in with the Ken Roxon incident, which created some nice buzz in the press conference and everything, and Kenny with the butt patch. But having Roxon there pushing him all the way, as well as Sexton, it made for some really great racing, mate. And Kenny gave that a massive boost. And how impressive was he seeing him in person? Obviously, you see him pop the quad after being reluctant to, because he knew that he had to, because Jet was pushing him as hard as he could. So you're definitely treated to some great racing, mate. That's for sure, JT.
Yeah, there were so many storylines, across 3 rounds. They were everywhere. And, the thing you mentioned was crazy. And I don't think everybody knows about this. So it's definitely worth talking about. But like Hunter Lawrence came in, he was your points leader. He was, set to try to go win the whole thing. Well, that's a $500,000 win, right? To win that championship. Now, nothing's certain. That's why they dropped the gates. But I think Hunter's been the best rider all year long. He won in Chicago the weekend before, and he comes in and he has this pinched nerve thing going on in his back, and he's unable to race. That difference from had he won, right? And that's assuming a lot. I understand. But if you look at the results, like Deegan's 5th and a 2nd wasn't anything unbeatable, right? Like Hunter is typically better than a 5-2 score on a weekend. That was a $484,000 drop in payout. He went from $500K to $16K in the points. Now, he did make good money. He won Chicago. He won $50,000, and he didn't make very much at Charlotte. He got 0 at in LA. So he did make some money. Don't get me wrong, but just the points alone, it was $484,000. He went from 1st to 9th in the points that night because of the triple point scoring. So brutal, insult to injury. I mean, literally kicking a man while he's down type stuff for Hunter. But then on the conversely, Hayden Deegan, made a ton of money. He made an extra $350,000 that night by having a great night and getting the job done. So, yeah, the fortunes and I guess loss of fortune that went on in LA was pretty crazy, and the 450 class was even more so. Just the racing is enough for me. I can find enough entertainment and just the competition side of it. When you start throwing around millions of dollars as well, the drama gets pretty wild.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. And I guess you look at it, James, we were speaking about Brent Van Donik's post about the money side of it the other day. So I don't know if JT saw that, but just fill him in on that one too, James.
Well, the one thing that's been kind of dominating my newsfeed at the moment is Jorge Prado holding his £5,000 check, or €5,000 check, I should say, from the weekend at MXGP Awards. And then you got the, all the payouts from SMX. And it's just like, there is no comparison. And I think it does actually put some pressure on Infra and MXGP to try and bring back some prize money or try and do something now. I think the gulf now between America and Europe is just way too much now, because before it was bad enough when riders weren't getting paid for prize money. The fact that SMX have just got this like record payout, I can imagine, JT, there's got to be quite a few legends from the 80s and 90s which are looking at some of these figures and just thinking, I'd quite fancy that in my time.
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to be legends. I mean, it's same for me, right? I raced this series for 16 years, and I have nothing to complain about, but it sure does make you envious of the opportunity, right? Some of these guys made a ton of money. I think a guy like Phil Nicoletti, who, our careers have taken a very similar trajectory, long span of racing, bounced around, but always kind of just one of the guys in the pack there. I think he made $45,000 on Saturday night. So, which is awesome. I love it for those guys, right? My time has come and gone. But yeah, the opportunity, if you could just step up and get things done on a certain night was big. And I'll give you another example. Like Cooper Webb was able to move up and he made an extra $100,000 just on Saturday. Right. And Cooper is not a guy that we know he doesn't necessarily need the money, but I think it just more speaks to the opportunity that was on the table. You didn't have to dominate 3 races. If you just hung in there and then put your best foot forward at the finale with triple points, man, you could make a lot of money just in 24 hours.
I think from the outside, the success of Supercross this year has just been, you know, like I say, I'm sure there's things that they've learned from, and there are things that they can improve on for 24. But you know, from the outside, from Europe looking in, we're kind of all envious over here.
Yeah, it's you know what, it's interesting because it wasn't like that MX Sports and Fell just said, you know what, we're just going to start writing huge checks, right? It was really in thanks to NBC Universal, which is the parent company for Peacock, right? That's really where this money came from. They saw value in having this live sport being available all year long. Case in point, you know, in America, we've been dealing with this actors and writers strike, and these broadcast companies, regardless of who it is, are all vulnerable to that, right? If you don't have content, guess what? People aren't going to pay you to have a subscription to these streaming channels. Well, live sports cuts out that chance of not having content. And Peacock saw that, right? So they ensured by writing a big check that wasn't going to be an issue. They were going to have this fantastic, broadcast 31 weekends a year. They were going to have great entertainment to show people, regardless of how that all turned out. And that strike is still ongoing, at least from the actor side anyway. So you think about what that's going to do to the content side for America over the next 6 months. Like that, they've been on strike for months now, right? So all those projects came to a halt. Well, that's going to bear fruit at some point negatively, where there's not going to be, there's a big hole in the schedule, like where all these things should have been landing and been able to be made public to America. Those are not going to be available because they got pushed back 2, 3, 4 months in production time. So things like Monster Energy Supercross, things like Pro Motocross, things like SMX provides an outlet. It's a big insurance policy to these companies. And it doesn't matter if it's Supercross, it could be rugby, it could be, Premier League. Any of those things are a great insurance policy against these things that, could possibly get pushed back a really, really long time. So there's a lot of moving parts to it. In the end, that 5-year deal that Peacock signed with this series is where the money came from. That was the catalyst for SMX, and that's how it came true. So when I look at it and say, should Infront step up and pay a lot of money? I understand, okay, saying yes is the easy answer, but it's not as easy as just write a check, right? Like this wasn't money that Fell just decided to give away out of the goodness of their heart. They needed someone to step in and provide those assets and those resources to be able to do it. So it'd be interesting to see how it plays out. I just wanted to say that because I hear all the time the narrative of like, they only did it because of World Supercross. That's not true. Going back, I mean, I've seen internal documents of things being passed around during 2020. Peacock saw then that this sport could keep going even during COVID, right? And they couldn't get movies made. They couldn't get television shows made. They couldn't get anything made because no one was allowed to be there to work. Supercross kept going. We had 7 rounds. Yeah, there were no fans, but guess what? You think that people watching at home care about the fans? No, of course they don't. They want to watch thrilling racing in a stadium. They want to watch the sport. So that's where it really started, was we need something COVID proof, whatever proof, strike proof, anything proof that we can rely on. And that's really where the revenue that we're seeing in this series, that was the genesis of it, is really, as crazy as it sounds, in my opinion, COVID and the scare that it brought to all of these people, it was the genesis for what we're seeing now with SMX.
That's the only thing we're thankful for COVID for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. If there was anything good, which I don't know that, I guess that counts. It prompted people to think outside the box about where premium entertainment would come from. So be it. I don't think that's worth the cost, you know, the deaths and all the things. Forget about me being really angry about wearing a mask all the time. But at least there was some sort of silver lining in the end. We'll be able to look back and say, well, that was one good thing that came from it.